I use a lot of ingredients in my desserts that give it a boost of superfood nutrition. I cater to a lot of people who have raw dessert cafes or businesses that want, or bakeries that want to offer a vegan, gluten-free option, and raw desserts just happen to fit both of those dietary restrictions. And it's funny, I'm in this industry teaching people how to eat this way. And then here's me, right? I wasn't taking care of myself. I'm like, how am I supposed to take care of other people when I can't even take care of myself? It's the #1 most requested recipe I get is to do a raw macaron.
Are all your desserts raw, or do you do cooked vegan desserts as well?
No, I don't do cooked. I don't
Okay.
bake. I've never baked a cake in my life. I've baked cookies, but no, I gravitated right towards raw desserts.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. We have another great guest. I'm really excited about this interview. So this is Crystal. Hello, Crystal. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you for taking the time to come in the show. I'm excited about this because I am raw food chef. I love making raw foods, and it's something you do. But before we get into that, can you first ex introduce yourself for a few minutes to the audience and tell them a little about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Crystal Bonnet, and I run a online culinary school called Crystal Dawn Culinary, where I do raw food and I fell in love with raw food about 11 years ago now was when I discovered it. And I love the creative aspect, which got me into learning everything that I could about it and then starting my online business because like you, I wanted to teach others and share the wealth and share the knowledge about raw foods. And yeah, so I've been doing that now. My Crystal Dawn Culinary business has been going now for 5 years. It's
Wow,
amazing.
absolutely amazing. So, when you were growing up, were you into health at all? Were you sick?
No.
How'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up, well, I was pretty lucky because my mom, she made a lot healthier food than what most kids had at school. We grew up pretty poor though, so we didn't have like super extravagant like healthy food lunches, right? But we didn't eat a lot of fast food. We didn't have pop in the house. We didn't have a lot of junk. We didn't have candy. Like we would never have any of that kind of stuff in our lunches. And we were always known at school. I have two sisters, so we would go to school with our lunches and everybody would like we were just known to have, like the healthiest lunches because we would have just like real food lunches. And for breakfast, she would make oatmeal every morning. So she would have oatmeal on the stove all ready for us to eat when we were before we went to school. But obviously, like my family was never focused on health. I'm the only vegan in my entire family. But I did make a strong connection to animals and meat at a very young age. My first memory of this was when I was 5 years old. And I remember standing in the kitchen with my mom, and one of the dishes she loved to make for dinner was meatloaf. And with the ground beef, the ground beef, I don't even know if it's sold like this anymore, but it would come on these styrofoam trays and there would be the blood pooling in the bottom. I know that sounds really gross, but you would see that right on the trays. And so she's getting the ground beef ready to make the meatloaf. And I remember saying, I'm like, I don't understand how we're supposed to eat that. Like, I don't get it. We eat like blood and like chicken, there'd be like the dark meat I could never eat as a kid. It completely grossed me out. So from that point on, any like red meat or dark meat or anything like that, I just couldn't eat. And I really just focused on eating white meat. Obviously, at that young of an, I don't even know if like I know vegetarianism and veganism was around, but in where I grew up and just my community, I mean, I don't even think there was anybody who ate that way. So, I mean, I still ate meat as a kid. And then I really got into health in my early 20s because I had a lot of digestive issues. So I ended up cutting out gluten and dairy. And then by my mid 20s, I was pescatarian. So the only animal products that I ate, like I didn't eat cheese or dairy. The only animal products I would eat was seafood and eggs. And then, but the problem was that I wasn't getting a lot of whole foods. I was eating a lot of processed food and eating out a lot because I never cooked. I never learned how to cook. It wasn't something that I enjoyed. I didn't like cooking. I didn't like preparing food. So I ended up eating a lot of processed food. I was working in offices and eating packaged oatmeal for breakfast and then eating some kind of packaged thing for lunch, going home and eating gluten-free toast and scrambled eggs. So like, where is the fruits and the veggies? I'm not getting any fruits and veggies. I'm not getting anything living, like definitely not much hydration or any micronutrients. And so then I ended up getting sick a lot. And this was in my early 30s. I was working in a huge office of a lot of people, and every time anyone would get sick, I would catch it. So I remember I was off work for almost 2 months straight, just back to back. I had strep throat, then I had laryngitis, pharyngitis, and it was like just all back to back. And that's when I was at home, and I remember doing some research online, and I was like, something is wrong. Like my body's telling me something is wrong. I need to build up my immunity. I need to change, like I need to make a huge change. And so I came across a raw food detox meal plan online. And I just knew, I'm like, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do to heal my body. And whenever I do anything, I go 150% in. I didn't have anything. I didn't have spices. I didn't have a blender. I didn't have a food processor, nothing. But I was so committed and went out and got like the Vitamix and the food processor, and I got all of the condiments. I got the supplements. And then a little down the line, I acquired a dehydrator and juicer and got into that. So it was progressive, but I did the 30-day, sorry, I know this is getting long. I'll
Mhm.
end here in a second. So I did the 30-day meal plan, and I couldn't believe how good I felt. I lost all my appetite for seafood and eggs, and there was no way that I could go back to eating any animal products. And I continued eating a high raw vegan diet since then. And that was the kind of food that I love to make. I don't like cooking. I don't know if it's because it's you're killing the food. It doesn't seem creative to me. It doesn't look that great. And raw food made me discover my creative side that I didn't even know that I had. And that ignited all of that in for me. And that's why I fell in love with raw food, was the look of it and the creative aspect of it. But of course, the benefit was that I felt amazing.
Sure. How long ago was that when you finally made the change and giving up the eggs and
Yeah, so that was
yeah.
in 2013. So
Wow.
11 years ago now. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I remember it's like such a big change in my life, right? So I always remember the date. It was May 2013 that I did the raw food meal plan.
And was there any difference? Did your friends and family say anything when you went
Yeah.
completely like that?
So I've always dealt with acne on and off my whole life, and the was one of the first comments that I would receive from coworkers at work and from my family who would come over and see me. They would say, "Wow, your skin looks amazing." And it was funny. I was looking at a photo the other day, a Facebook memory that popped up, and it was from 10 years ago, and I look younger now than I did then.
Wow.
And it's crazy. Yeah.
So when you got into it, besides that detox, 30-day detox thing, were you doing it on your own, or did you research it enough where you had an idea what to do in terms of what you were going to eat?
Well, it was a full meal plan, so
Oh,
everything was
okay.
laid out for me. I don't know if you remember, it was a very popular blog. They were here local, Vancouver based. It was called Young and Raw.
No, I haven't
Know
heard of
them?
them.
Mm.
No.
So they're a pretty big food blog, and they're the ones that offered, and it was a very complex, comprehensive raw food meal plan. They had everything in there about colon hydrotherapy and juicing and the supplements to take and the entire meal plan. So with the meal plan and the shopping list, that made it easy for me. I just followed that.
Are they still around?
No, no, they sold their website a long time ago, and they're the people who started it don't even eat vegan anymore,
Oh, wow.
fortunately. So,
I always find that quite sad that, people would get so
right?
far and then do something, go backwards.
I know, I don't get it. And there's, as you know, there's so many people in the industry who, were vegan for so long, and then they eat like go to the extreme and now they're eating like carnivore and like meat 3 times a day. And I don't, for me, I could never. Like, is people, some, I get some negative comments and stuff online about oh, raw food is so restrictive, blah, blah, blah. And my answer is always is, I'm eating real whole foods and I don't support all of the dogma that goes along, that happens in the raw food industry. And I just eat real whole foods. I love my fats. I love like all of the food groups, within raw food. I don't restrict anything. I don't like putting restrictions on top of restrictions. But for me, eating meat is like some people have a super strong aversion to cilantro. I mean, I would throw it up before it would even get down my throat. It
Wow.
totally disgusts me. Like I could never, like I was never meant to eat it. It just was never meant for me. Any animal products. I mean, I just could never ever go back. And that's why I'm so shocked when I see people who do end up going backwards like that. It baffles me.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
everyone is so different and
They are. And so how's your health been for the last 11 years?
good. Well, so I have been having some issues, but it's getting better now. But it was because I burnt myself out running my business and I wasn't taking care of myself properly. I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't drinking enough water. And I basically worked myself into the ground the last few years. So, a huge thing for me that I discovered at the end of last year was my hormonal health. And so this is something I talk about a lot lately as well is I do get, especially for women, because I'm going to be 43 in December. And especially for women in their 40s, we do need the extra protein and amino acids and cholesterol to make the hormones. But also, if you're burning yourself out and working yourself to the ground, like my adrenals were completely burnt out. And anyway, so I've been working on building all of that back up and taking time for myself in the morning. Like I don't work till 12 now, and I work from 12 to 8 or 12 to 9, and I don't work every day, all day anymore because yeah, we just need to take care of ourselves. And it's funny, I'm in this industry teaching people how to eat this way. And then here's me, right? I wasn't taking care of myself. I'm like, how am I supposed to take care of other people when I can't even take care of myself? But this is what happens, I guess, when you're running a business. It's hard. I do everything on my own and to get everything on myself. And so it's been a lot, but I'm finally finding balance now, finally.
When you say, obviously there's other factors that can affect your health, but when you say you weren't eating well the last couple of years, what does that mean for somebody who's a high raw vegan?
Well, I was eating out. So we have one vegan restaurant here. So on days when I would be filming, if I have a live class, it's a 12-hour day, and my entire kitchen is already being used up for a live class, or if I'm filming courses, I don't have the capacity to make food for myself. So I would be ordering out at this vegan restaurant, and they were doing deep fried tofu with like
Ah.
the rice and the sauces that probably have like seed oils and stuff in them. So, but just because I'd be starving and I'd be like, I have nothing to eat, I need to, because I mostly do raw desserts, right? So it's not like I always have savory raw food prepared. I'm not always doing that. And I can't just live off raw desserts, even though I was at one point, like literally living off green juice and raw desserts. But yeah, so I was like ordering out, or I would go all day without eating, or even hydrating because I would get to work right away on the computer first thing in the morning. And then it's like 2 o'clock and I haven't even had water or anything. So yeah, just doing those kinds of habits just put a negative impact on my health for sure.
So what would you say is your ideal day of eating? If all the circumstances are right and you can choose, what would be your ideal day of eating? How often and how much and what times?
Okay, so that's a good question. So basically what I'm doing now, and because I've been doing this now for a while, because I make sure my calendar is cleared in the morning, but most of the time I love to start the day with juice. I mean, it's just so refreshing and
Green
hydrating.
juice or fruit juice?
I make different kinds of juices all the time. The juice I made for the last few days is a really strong green juice. It has like kale and and all the herbs and all of this kind of stuff. But it changes all the time. Like if I go to a local farmer's market here, actually, this is one of their shirts, and I get, whatever is available for that week. So if they have like yellow watermelon, I'll come home and juice some yellow watermelon. Or if they have like lots of greens or, just kind of whatever I can get that's really fresh or whatever I have available. Um, yeah, so juice. I love to start the morning with juice. And then I have a couple hours later my protein smoothie with like all the greens powders like chlorella, spirulina, herbs, frozen fruit, some fresh fruit, and protein powder in there. And then I don't like to eat my actual like full meal until a little bit later. So probably about 2 to 3 my time is when I'll have a huge salad with like a bunch of stuff in there. And I love dehydrating. So I'll have like some dehydrated bread or some crackers or like wraps to go along with the salad. And then snacks, like I'm such a snacker. So I love having like some kind of energy bites or energy bars, or I'll have like dehydrated granola and have some like granola with a banana later on or something like that. So that's my ideal day of eating. And when I am eating at home and I have time to do that, that's how I normally eat.
What's your favorite dessert to make?
Mm. You know what's funny is everyone always asks me this, and I always say I don't have a favorite because I'm such a creative person and I'm always coming up with new recipes that any new dessert recipe is going to be my favorite for that time. And really, it all depends how I'm feeling. Like one week, I could be more gravitating towards more chocolate. The next week, something more citrus, like a key lime pie or like a lemon tart or something like that. So it just depends, I guess, on what I'm creating and what I feel like.
What's the main type of sweetener do you use for your desserts?
Yeah, so I use a few different kinds. I use coconut nectar is like my number one go-to, my favorite sweetener. If I could use coconut nectar and everything, I would. But the desserts I make are, professional style raw desserts that are a better option than traditional ones. So I like to use other sweeteners like coconut sugar. I'll use a light amber agave because it's a vegan substitution for honey when I need a liquid sweetener that's light in color that is going to keep my dessert light instead of adding coconut nectar that would darken it. And then sometimes I use xylitol. I don't really use Lakanto anymore. I used to use that a lot. But xylitol, I don't even use that much anymore. So if I need a white crystallized sweetener again, just to keep something nice and light, right? So it all depends on what I'm making and what the end result needs to be.
Now, in making the desserts for the people, uh, and I know you said you love desserts, do you believe that it's you're just trying to give them some pleasure in eating somewhat not as bad as they were before, or do you have any focus on, hey, this is healthy, or is it just like a vegan snack that you might believe it's not healthy, but it's not meant to be a health food, it's meant to be a to fill a pleasure. What's your goal with your desserts?
Well, kind of both, I think, because I use a lot of ingredients in my desserts that give it a boost of superfood nutrition, such as I use a lot of sea moss and a lot of superfood powders, freeze-dried superfood powders and stuff like this. Um, to me, I mean, a raw dessert is more whole food than eating empty carbs of flour from a baked good, right? Especially you can tell when and I always make this comparison because if I travel, because I am a foodie, I'll eat something that's vegan and gluten-free. I like to try all of the places. So if there's like a vegan gluten-free bakery, I want to try it out. But whenever I eat baked goods, I could sit there and eat like 3 whole pastries or cookies, and before I know it, they're all gone, and I'm like still hungry. Or I'm like, I can't believe I just ate all that. Like if that was a raw dessert, like I wouldn't be able to eat that all because it fills me up so fast because there's so much more nutrition in it, right? Because it's more whole food based. So, I mean, a little bit of both. I cater to a lot of people who have raw dessert cafes or businesses that want, or bakeries that want to offer a vegan gluten-free option, and raw desserts just happen to fit both of those dietary restrictions. So um, yeah, I mean, both. Obviously, it's not, you're not going to tell people if they want to detox, they're going to eat raw dessert every day. I definitely don't promote that, but it's definitely something that is a lot better than their traditional baked counterparts because you are getting nutrition and whole foods. And
Sure.
yeah.
When you come up with your desserts, is it you just like you're sleeping and you're dreaming, you're like, oh, I'll try that tomorrow? Or do you like go when you go to the bakery and you taste something that's not vegan, do you say, I'm gonna make a vegan version of this? How do you come up with your desserts?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. I get inspiration from everywhere. And yeah, I do like to do that a lot. If I see a cooked or baked version, I'll be like, oh, I need to try a raw version of that. Some I don't even bother trying, like raw macarons. And I talk about this a lot with my students because it's the number one most requested recipe I get is to do a raw macaron. Well, in French pastry, it's such a coveted recipe that doing a raw version would really do a disservice to it. So I wouldn't try anything doing a raw version of that kind of
I
recipe.
don't understand. I don't understand your reasoning. Tell me that again,
Oh,
because
because okay, in French pastry, you know the mac, do you know what I mean by the French macarons?
ma
They're super
macaroon in
popular.
New York we call it macaroons, right? Yeah.
No, so there's macaron and macaroons. They're
Okay.
different.
Okay.
Macarons are like the cookie with the cream in the middle.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the pastry is very light and airy. So you bite into it, it's like this light and airy cookie with this cream in the middle, right?
Okay.
But in French pastry, it's a very coveted recipe. It's like such a sacred recipe, right? To do a macaron. So I would never try to do a raw version of that because I wouldn't even call it a macaron. I would just call it a raw vegan cookie.
Well,
I
if you
mean,
were able to successfully mimic the taste of it somehow, I know it'd be
no, because
difficult.
it's the puffiness and the airiness of the pastry that you can only get with baking and
I
using
see.
baking powder and baking soda, right?
I see.
Where if you try a raw version, it's going to be more dense,
I
and you
see.
can't get that rising texture
What
that you
about
get.
are all your desserts raw, or do you do cooked vegan desserts as well?
No, I don't do cooked. I don't
Okay.
bake. I've never baked a cake in my life. I've baked cookies, but no, I gravitated right towards raw desserts. I just
Okay.
love, and I'm like a mad scientist in the kitchen because I love to create textures that haven't been done before in raw, and I like to push the boundaries because I do like to do more professional style so that people can sell them in their businesses. Like I do these fluffy layered cakes that actually taste like a baked cake. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing what you can do with raw ingredients.
Absolutely. Now, is it only local that you serve, or do you ship in the mail?
Oh, no, I don't do commercial. I just teach.
Oh, you just
I don't
teach.
do
Okay.
any commercial. I don't have time to do commercial food. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Oh.
I can't, here in BC, you have to have a commercial kitchen. The laws here are very strict. So yeah, I don't do any commercial food. Otherwise, that would be my full-time business. My online culinary school keeps me very, very busy.
So your teaching, is it mostly online, or do you do some live teaching?
So I've done a lot of live teaching in the past, but now it's just 100% online.
Okay. So for you personally, uh, besides what you're eating, how's the other health aspects of your life? Do you exercise? How's your sleep? How
Yeah, so I exercise almost every day. It's like I've been like that since my early 20s. I've always had to be physically active to for my mental health, especially. If I don't work out, then I notice it right away. So yeah, I work out almost every day. I do strength training and cardio. And yeah, I sleep pretty good depending on, obviously stuff happens in your life. So lately, of course, I've been prioritizing sleep and I make sure I get 8 hours of sleep a night.
great, great. And do you have a family? Like,
No, I don't have kids. I have a
okay.
dog.
Yeah, that was my next question. You have a dog? Yeah.
Yeah.
So with
So
your
I just,
dog, how do you feed the dog? I mean, do you feed the dog standard
oh,
food, or do you make him food, or what?
no, I make his homemade food and my husband makes his meat because he doesn't eat vegan, but I feed him. And sometimes I'm like, God, this dog gets more expensive supplements than me because like I give him, all some really good supplements. But no, I make his food. So I make a blend of steamed yams, carrots, and cruciferous vegetables and peas. And then I blend it all up in the food processor. And then I mix that with his supplements and then my husband usually makes some baked chicken or baked turkey or whatever. And then I just shred that up and I put it in his food and that's what he eats.
Now that was my next question, and you kind of answered it. So your husband is not a vegan.
No, he's not vegan.
Okay, so we're gonna have a good
Because,
discussion right now because I have this discussion with some other guests as well. So
yeah,
before
good.
you got married, were you a vegan?
No,
Okay, so you both weren't vegans before you got married.
exactly.
Then you got married.
That's
So when you
why.
made the decision to stop eating meat, how'd he deal with that?
He, the one, like, uh, the reason why too it works with me being vegan and he doesn't eat meat or that he eats meat is that he supports me 100% in everything that I do. So he was very supportive of me doing that. And we've been married now for 17 years. So I went vegan, through after it was like, so how many years after? Probably about 5 years after we got married. And yeah, so he's very, very supportive. Obviously, it's very difficult for me, especially lately. So for a few years, he didn't bring any meat into the house, and actually he ate pescatarian for a few years. And it was amazing not having any meat in the house. He has his own fridge in the garage because I can't have meat next to my raw food. Like I couldn't have meat next to my green juice. I mean, I just cannot. It completely grosses me out in the fridge, right? So he has his own fridge and he will only make meat in the oven or on the barbecue. But even on the barbecue, sometimes like the smell, like if he's barbecuing downstairs, I can't even go downstairs because I can't handle I can't handle the smell.
Now
But
this is a topic that I discuss with other people that are in the situation. So how is it though? Like what if he if he like he's being respectful, having his own fridge and not making stuff in the house too much, but if he was like if he said, "Look, I don't care. I'm putting my meat in this fridge and I'm keeping my meat here. If you don't like it, in a nice way, if he said, too bad, this is the way it is."
yeah.
So, do you think like how would you feel about that as a vegan?
Well, I would just get another fridge and I would just have my own fridge then. I mean, I just
Okay, okay.
yeah, I just couldn't share a fridge with meat, with all of my veggies. Like the fridge in the kitchen is full. Like I go to the market every Tuesday and it's like just full of veggies and fruit. I mean, and my juice and homemade like coconut milk and almond milk and all this stuff.
When
And
when you went vegan, did you discuss it with him? These are the things I would like, or the new house rules or something, or did it just evolve?
no, it evolved and it took time, but actually in the beginning, he was working up at camp job, so he would be gone for like a month and then come home for like a week. So it wasn't too bad at the beginning because he was never home. But yeah, it just definitely evolved. It evolved. I think he's just really also too, he's very respectful and mindful, which I'm so like blessed because if it wasn't that way, I don't think it would have worked out, right? So I'm very grateful for that.
Well, I think people have to have be in a certain place to be fine with what the other person is doing, which is a good part of life because you never get
Yeah.
people doing this. But I have interviewed people that are so passionate, especially for the animals, more than the food. Because what I've come to see from people I've interviewed, if people are doing this for health reasons and their partner or their spouse is not vegan, they can deal with it. They can deal with it and put up with it. But the people I speak to that are doing this for animal activism or they really feel strong about the animal and the animal's life, like if that's the main reason they're doing this, they have a really, really tough time with their significant other
Yeah.
cooking meat.
Well, I'm both, definitely. I'm still, especially when I first got into it, I did a lot of animal activism. I just don't anymore because it's not my way of doing activism. My way now is like changing people's minds that, oh, vegan food can taste good. I'm gonna start eating more plant-based food. But no, it is difficult for me. And obviously, yeah, no, it's for I'm definitely vegan, of course, for the animals, because I think that that kind of evolves. Anybody who starts eating vegan, you get more spiritual, you get more hyper aware, you're way more sensitive. So I think that that just becomes a part of it as well, what I've noticed and what happened with me as well. Yeah, and so it is difficult for me, don't get me wrong. It's very difficult for me. Like I said, when he barbecues lately, like I can't even be in the kitchen because the smell, like I can't handle it. I mean, I said that to him the other day. I'm like, I don't want to be smelling a dead carcass like in my house cooking. Like,
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
I was just talking to somebody just earlier today. It's like I don't understand how somebody could be like people that are like dog lovers or cat lovers. I don't know how
Yeah,
they can eat meat if they like they're
I know.
that I don't get. I get if people just
I
hate
know.
animals and they don't care, but when people they love a dog, but then they'll eat a cow, I don't get it, you know?
Yeah, well, it's because they've been programmed, right? They've been
Yeah.
programmed and brainwashed, and they don't see the animal. They just see this piece of meat. So they don't really make the connection. It's almost like they dissociate themselves from that connection because I don't know, like I think because what happened with me is when I stopped eating animal products, I became way more spiritual and sensitive. And I think that people who eat meat, they just don't have that turned on and they're just very dissociated because they're eating all of this bad energy. And yeah, so I think they just kind of shut off and they just don't make that connection. But
Yeah.
yeah, I totally get it. I say that all the time. Like, when I see, like, for instance, a little while ago, I'm in the community Facebook group, and someone was freaking out over something that happened with some Canadian geese on one of the roads. And the people were going crazy in the Facebook group. Something happened to this group of Canadian geese. I can't remember what it was. And the whole time, and it's so hard for me to keep my mouth shut because all I want to say in there is, I'm like, I bet all of you eat meat. Like, what is the difference? So you care about this geese's life, but you don't care about the pig or the cow. That kind of stuff just gets me very angry and upset when I see that. People care so much about these other animals' lives, but they don't about the ones that they're eating. So,
Yeah, it's crazy. I interviewed somebody recently and they brought up a good point. They say you could see like a YouTube video of somebody stopping traffic to save like an animal in the street.
yeah.
Everyone's watching that and saying, "Oh, how kind it is." And then they go to a fast food place and get some meat to
Yeah.
eat.
Exactly, exactly. I know. I don't. It baffles me. I don't get it either.
Yeah. Now, earlier you said you take protein powder pretty much in your smoothies as your
Yeah,
one of your ideal days of eating. Why do
yeah.
you feel as a vegan that you need protein powder?
Well, because I wasn't getting enough protein to make my hormones. So you need amino acids to make hormones, especially for women. For women, especially at my age, you need that extra protein. And that's what I've discovered. And like everyone is different, right? But for me, I feel better when I have that. I also do a lot of strength training. So I feel better when I'm having that extra protein. I also take amino acids. So I take amino acids and the protein powder in my smoothies.
Well, I was going to ask you what type of supplements you take. So you amino acids, protein powder, what other supplements do you take?
Yeah, so it changes all the time. I go on and off of taking a probiotic. Right now I'm taking turmeric. I take vitamin D3, the vegan vitamin D3 and K2 on and off, vegan omega 3s, which is really important. I take on and off a B complex. I take some electrolytes. I've been doing electrolytes, especially in the summer. I'm sweating all the time. So it changes. I don't take the same supplements all the time. Oh, selenium I'm taking right now to build my thyroid hormones, selenium and iodine. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Do you get your blood work checked?
Yeah, I do a lot.
How often is a lot? Once a year?
Well, I've been doing it, I think probably about every 6 months
Okay.
lately.
And how has it been over the years and how is it now?
Yeah, so it goes up and down. Like sometimes my iron is really low. Sometimes my B12 is like too high. I'm taking too much B12 supplements, so I have to like lay. And that's why I like doing the blood work because I think it's important to see where your levels are at so that you don't overdo it on the supplements. Because for iron, especially, you can take too much iron that it's going to be toxic and B12 as well. So, I always like to see where my iron is at. And it's always up and down. My iron has never been too low. It's never gone below 30, which is actually really good for especially for me because I don't take iron all the time. But I'm always eating a lot of blood building foods like beets, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'd like to get it done. I'd like to get it done just to see where I'm at, to see like what supplements I need to take. But it's always really good. Like my cholesterol and everything is always perfect. Yeah, everything is really good. So it's mainly like the vitamins that I like to look at.
Sure. And when there were different types of raw food diet, high fat, low fat, high sugar, low
Mhm.
sugar. What one do you gear towards the most, would you say?
Yeah, so I definitely don't follow like the 80-10-10 or the low fat. I don't do well on low fat. I thrive with fats. I need fat in order for my brain to function, again, for it to build my hormones, like for over my overall health. So I eat the fats, like I eat olive oil, not every day. I have coconut oil. I eat fats probably at every meal. So yeah, I definitely don't restrict the fats.
Okay. The people that you teach, are they people that are just off the street that don't know anything about this, or are they people that are really serious about the raw food diet?
Oh, so it's a really wide variety, huge wide variety. I get a lot of professionals who want to do raw food as a profession or they want to introduce it in their restaurants or their cafes. I have a lot of, when I did a poll a while ago I wanted to see how many people in my audience are actually vegan or non-vegan, about 50% were only vegan. So a
Wow.
lot of them also too just want to learn something new because they are foodies and they love food. And again, with the creative aspect of it, so which is what I love. And then most of them gravitate towards end up eating more plant-based foods. So that's when I know I've made a difference. And but yeah, so it's a huge wide variety of students that I get.
Okay, and you're located in Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah, Vancouver, BC. Yeah, exactly.
And have you always been there?
No, so I was born and raised in this area, and then I moved away when I was 17. And then came back when I was 24 and then moved away again when I was 26 and then came back in 2018.
How easy or complicated is it to be a vegan these days in Vancouver, Canada?
Oh, I think anywhere to be vegan is easy now. Anywhere. I mean, it's so easy to be vegan. Raw vegan is definitely, I feel like, because I don't eat 100% raw. I eat probably 80 to 90% depending on the season and if I'm traveling. But yeah, and like we were talking about before we started the call, Vancouver doesn't have very many healthy restaurants, unfortunately. Everyone here is into the vegan junk food. So a lot of these vegan restaurants I wouldn't even eat at because it's all deep fried this and impossible burgers and Beyond Meat and all this crap that I would never even eat. So yeah, I mean, so I definitely don't eat out often, but I know what we were talking about before is I was eating out before a lot at this one vegan restaurant here, but I prefer to make all my own food at home. But I think it's so easy to eat vegan anywhere. I was living in Edmonton for 10 years, Edmonton, Alberta, which is very north. It gets to like, I don't know what this is in Fahrenheit, but to minus 30 Celsius in the winter, which is very cold. And it's beef country. And that's where I got into raw food.
Wow.
And I worked for a power company. I worked for a company that built all the power plants in the construction and engineering department. Okay. So here, like me, I was literally the only vegan in an entire office of 400 people. Now, thank goodness, as time evolved, Edmonton actually became way more vegan friendly. I love actually the vegan restaurants there more than I do here in Vancouver. And now there's way more vegan people, but it was difficult when I first went vegan there because I just made all my own food, right? I just made everything myself.
Sure, sure.
Mhm.
So how can people find you? What's your website? And that has all your information about what you offer program wise, and you have a recipe book. So is it all on your website?
Yeah, all on my website, crystaldawnculinary.com. They can just go there and find the links to my
I'm gonna put a link below everybody in the description to the website. So and
awesome.
and now you have a YouTube channel as well?
I do, yeah. I have a lot of good educational videos and some recipe videos on my YouTube channel.
You have
It's
recipe
Crystal Dawn
videos. Good.
Culinary.
Very good. So you have recipe videos
Yeah.
there. So what's your goal like for the near future with what you're doing with the business or your personal health? What would you like to see happen?
Yeah, so with my personal health, I'm going to keep going with putting my self-care first and prioritizing that so that I can show up as the best version of myself in my business. And I'm actually a lot more productive when I do that. And then for my business, I just want to keep going. So I launched a raw dessert membership at the beginning of this year, where I teach, where we do live classes every month. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there. It's called Raw Dessert Creators Club. And so that's been a lot of fun. And so I've been really been working on building that up. And yeah, I just want to keep going and hopefully my business will allow me to do that.
Wonderful. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you and have you on the show here. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before we finish?
No, I think we covered a lot. Yeah, just if anybody goes to my website and they have any questions, yeah, just send me an email. I always love chatting with new people and seeing where they're at and what they need help with.
Great, great. Well, thank you again for being on here. And everybody, get to the links below the video. I'll have all of Crystal's website and information. And if you have any comments or questions, post them below as well, and we'll get those answered. And thank you. Thank you, Crystal, again for being on the show. And thank you,
Thank
everybody, for
you.
watching.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show.